What's up, Scyushi Squad? We back in with some more Genshin Impact, and today we're going to be talking about the patch notes. So I'm not going to read through every single little detail, just kind of give you a summary of each of the different features that are coming with the patch notes, just because otherwise there is a huge long laundry list of things, most of all related to the end of the patch notes. Actually has some of the most interesting stuff, and we'll cover all of that, but let it be known that this is a very, very lengthy patch notes. I'll leave a link in the description to it if you guys want to check everything out about it. But otherwise, yeah, this is going to end up being the new area. So Dragonspine, which is quite massive. It's basically the giant ice mountain. Technically, it still is a part of Mondstadt, so there is no Statue of the Seven. There's no Oculus or anything like that, which are the little things that you gather that increase your stamina. There's something similar to them that you'll end up taking to the Frostbearing tree, but we'll get into that in a little bit. So first and foremost, when this patch ended up hitting, you guys and gals may want to check your mail, because they actually gave us quite a bit of Primogems, 600. They always give us more Primogems for the amount of downtime that there is, included with some random fixes and stuff like that that they ended up having to resolve. So that's where the compensations. There's a certain eligibility in order to end up getting that stuff, adventure rank 5 or above, and so on and so forth. So there's going to end up being the new area, Dragonspine, which you can see right here. Travelers will be able to put their adventuring skills to the test in a sub-zero climate for all new Dragonspine area. Here, travelers will discover a whole new exploration experience filled with various puzzles, as well as new quests and mechanisms awaiting at every turn. I can tell you first-hand experience, like I've already gone through most of this, as you can see, and oh my god, I absolutely love this area. It's got so much chest, so much loot, but it's really deadly because the enemies here are quite powerful. So I wouldn't recommend going here if you're early on in the game, unless you want a challenge, in which case go for it. But there is also a weird mechanic in this area where you will slowly start to freeze to death if you're not beside a warm source. So you can see right now the meter is slowly filling up down by my health bar, and once it fully maxes out, we slowly start taking damage over time. And you can end up warming up by standing next to torches and stuff, so fire characters are going to be vital. And then you can also just stand next to Statue of the Seven, fast travel points, Sealies, lots of little things that you can end up standing by will end up warming your character back up. So that's pretty cool. There's also going to end up being the Crimson Agate, which is this new ore right here. So this is going to end up warming you up while you have it on your person. But you can expend this effect that we have right now by either attacking an enemy, or there are very specific chunks of ice that you won't be able to destroy even with a fire character. You will have to use the agate. There's also going to end up being certain puzzles related to it. So for example, I just want to let you guys know, I won't spoil too much of it, but in order to unlock this tree right here, it's very, very close to the beginning of the area, because you pretty much go over here, you get a starting quest, and then you can just go into the mountain, or you could just wander into it. I'm pretty sure it's just unlocked from the get-go. But I'd recommend doing the quest just because it does teach you a lot of the different mechanics. And I want to recommend that when you get to this tree right here, there's going to be like a giant ice cube in the middle, and you're going to end up destroying these Crimson Agate, gathering them, and then attacking the crystal in the middle. So there's going to be 4 stones, I think, kind of roughly around the area. And the weird mechanic, and this is kind of what I want to explain and get out of the way post haste, is that these stones normally will respawn after a short while, unless you are activating one of these crystals. So this is the tree already fully active, but there's a couple of these that you'll experience in the Dragonspine. So as you end up grabbing one of the Crimson Agate, and then you end up attacking the crystal, you'll notice that its health goes down. But if you try to go back to where the Crimson Agate was, you see this one already respawned. When you're in the middle of that puzzle, ice is going to cover the Crimson Agate. So it's kind of like okay, the player has to go around and find four of the red ore in the area in order to end up destroying the crystal fully, but you have to get it from multiple different sources, and some of the areas are going to require combat and etc, etc. So it's kind of a nice cool mechanic, but I wanted to recommend that you end up getting the tree unlocked right away, because this is going to be kind of the key thing where as you're exploring the area you can end up getting these stones that are basically the same as an oculus, and then you'll end up coming to this similarly to how you would with a statue of the seven, and you'll end up spending these stones. Oh, these are the crimson agate. My bad. I don't know what the ore is called then. Let's call it redstone ore. But anyways, every 10 you'll end up being able to level up the tree, and you'll end up gaining various resources out of it, including one of the most important at level 4, which is a warming bottle. So this will be a potion that you can craft that will end up keeping you resistant to the cold while you're here at your stay. But then there's going to end up being a spear, there's name cards and junk like that. There's lots of really good things out of it, including at level 12 fully maxed out wings. Yeah, so that's kind of neat. So anyways, moving on. There is a new domain in the game that is going to be unlocked, as I had mentioned previously. When you find all of the gigantic crystals, this one opens the tree where there is going to end up being, I think, 2 or 3 more that you have to find on the mountain, and you have to end up solving the puzzle in order to end up opening up a wind cave that goes from the statue of the seven inside, and then ultimately you get all the way up here and you gotta solve one last big boy puzzle in order to end up getting the domain unlocked. And this domain, all of you child mains out there are going crazy, because this domain has both the cryo set and the hydro set are finally in the game in this domain. So players are going to be going crazy. There's also a lot of nice quality of life changes where when you're in a domain, you can literally just restart it without having to leave and come back. You will have to deal with one loading screen while it resets the domain, but at least it's better than leaving and watching the door animation and going back in and inviting all your friends if you're in co-op and stuff like that. Also, when you end up spending resin for certain, well, for anything now, like whether it be ley lines, storm terror, weekly bosses, domains, when you end up spending resin, the items will no longer be plopped on the ground. They're instantly going to go into your inventory, and you'll see a little thing pop up on your screen showing you the items that you end up actually getting. So that's pretty cool. On top of the domain, there is also going to end up being new characters. Most notably is going to end up being the new 5-star character Albedo. Later Ganyu is going to be showing up, but we'll talk about that in a bit. So Albedo's banner is here for 20 days. I'm not going to roll for it, even though Albedo does seem kind of cool. You can always trial him, but to me, he kind of just seems like he's like not Diluc, you know? But in his banner is going to be Fischl, so if you missed your chance, she's actually a really powerful character. Sucrose, who's really good as well, and Bennett, who is probably one of the best support characters in the game, just because he makes you do like crazy damage and stuff like that. But anyways, let's hop on Albedo and I'll show you his abilities real quick. So the thing about Albedo is I absolutely love his style. I think he just looks so cool, and I would love to roll for his banner, but honestly speaking, I already spent so much freaking money on my Zhongli. I can't be bothered to end up getting this guy and leveling him, especially because he's a Geo character. Yep, another one. So he's a single-handed sword character. This is his attack combo. Kind of cool, but nothing super duper special. It's still pretty neat though. His RT or E ability is going to end up having this kind of Geo effect in the area where any enemies that you end up damaging or killing or something are going to end up being affected by it. This kind of acts like his Geo construct, but the interesting thing is you just stand on it and it levitates you up rather than something that you have to climb. And oddly enough, one of his abilities is that, or one of his constellations, I should say, increases plunging attacks. So I guess the point is that you could just go on this with any other character, and I don't know how it would end up working in co-op, but if you hold the ability, you can actually choose where it gets thrown down as well. You can cast the ability pretty darn often, and it does do a considerable amount of damage. I was actually very surprised, but to me, it's an elevator. It's weird. The whole point though is as you tag enemies with this and then you end up using his ult, that's where he starts to shine, because you're gonna plop it down. You can see that all of them end up getting affected and blah blah blah. I'll see if I can end up building my ult up here, and you can see how much you can just spam that ability, and it's got quite a bit of range on it as well for the cast. So that's literally what you're gonna be spamming with him. And then his ult does a lot of damage, and then you see that after effect explosive attack. That is actually because of these enemies being tagged by our flower. So he's pretty nutty. I'm actually surprised. Like, I didn't really think he was gonna be that good, just because his abilities are very, very lackluster. Like, visually, they just don't really look that appealing or anything to me. But it seems like he might end up scaling to be pretty darn powerful. I mean, most of all, he obviously seems to be a support character, but I do think that he could possibly end up being built towards a DPS. The only thing is that, I mean, after Zhongli, it seems like a mistake that they ended up just throwing another Geo character in the game so soon, on top of that one that is not nearly as flashy as Zhongli. I mean, clearly this character just spams his ult like crazy, which is kind of nice. But, I mean, most of all, like I said, I like his style, but I don't think I'm going to end up rolling for him. I guess before we end up leaving, I can show his abilities and stuff like that. So they give him Favonius Sword, which I think there's a better combination of stuff that you can end up using for this guy, including the artifact bonus. But let's take a quick peek at his constellation, just so that you guys can see everything. So when his blossoms generate by Albedo's Abiognosis, that's his flower, let's call it, you'll regenerate energy for Albedo. Okay, cool. Transient blossom generated by his flower grant Albedo Fatal Reckoning for 30 seconds. Each stack of Fatal Reckoning increases damage by 30% of Albedo's defense. So he is literally building damage off of defense, which another weirdo Geo character. Like, I still don't think he would end up scaling better than Ning Wong as far as a Geo DPS character is concerned, but I mean, someone's gonna do it. I don't care. I can't cash whale this character even if I wanted to. The effect stacks up to 4 times, so that's pretty darn good. Unleashing Rite of blah, blah, blah. His ult ability consumes all the stacks of Fatal Reckoning, increasing the damage dealt by the Tectonic Tide and Fatal Blossoms based on the number of stats consumed. Good God. So again, you are literally just going to be spamming your flower to build up the stacks, and then you would use your ult to expend it all in a big burst of glory where everything would die, which actually sounds pretty cool. Solar Isotoma increases plunging attack damage by 30% for active party members within the AoE, so that's the flower ability again, so there's that plunging that I mentioned. And then finally his last ability, if an active party member is within the AoE are protected by a shield created by Crystallize, Solar Isotoma increases their damage by 17%. So very similar to other Geo characters that we've seen. But moving on, Ganyu is going to end up being in the next 5-star banner, so that's a character that some people are waiting for. After Ganyu, I think is going to be Zhao, which is the big character everyone's waiting for. But Ganyu is going to end up being a cryo character that uses a bow, and then Zhao is going to be coming, I think he's coming in February, actually, and he's going to end up using Spear. He's going to be an Anemo Spear character, so lots of people are really excited about it. I could care less. Like, I'm waiting for other characters. I don't want to spoil too much of the mountain. That's why I'm kind of just chilling by the starting areas and stuff. But if you're waiting on Ganyu, well, there you go. You've probably seen her in Zhongli's quest line and stuff. She's kind of the weird cow lady. They also do mention some of the new weapons, so that's going to end up being out of the new weapon banner and stuff, which, I mean, they're probably really good. I just don't really care about rolling for these weapon banners, even though it's good stuff. They do end up mentioning all the stats and stuff like that, so you guys can check them out if you want, but we'll kind of skip over that. There's going to end up being some other items you'll get out of the event as well, so keep that in mind. So the Chalk Prince and the Dragon is going to end up giving you this unique sword that you'll end up getting out of the event, which is pretty cool. And most of all, crowns. Crowns are used for very, very high level talent abilities. So when you're leveling up your talents, eventually they're going to start costing these crowns. But that's true end game. It's really, really brutal though. But anyways, the event itself, when it actually starts, I don't think it has yet. There's going to be this event shop where you'll be able to buy all of these items out of it. Apparently the event isn't going to cost resin. We'll see, because honestly I don't trust them saying that. But then there's going to be the second part of the quest. We'll have these items in a different currency, and then the last part of the quest will have an even bigger currency, and then all of these items. So a bunch of talent books and stuff like that. Either way, really cool stuff. There's Moment of Sinner. Oh yeah, okay, so there's something else going on with the Spiral Abyss, which I don't really do the Spiral Abyss, so I don't care. But I think you have to complete floor 8, and you'll end up getting quite a bit of Primogems out of it. It's 2,400. I might actually try to do that, even though I don't really have a bunch of characters built for it. So the thing that I find really weird is that the event itself, most of the details that they mention are actually just related to completing the story quests from the new update. So it's kind of weird, dude. Like, Obviously it seems like there is a starting quest that happens with Albedo, or Albedo, however you pronounce it. I don't care. But there is currently another part of the quest that I'm invested in right now, Festering Desire. And the thing that I find so strange, which is a little bit disappointing on my end, is just the fact that there's literally a time-limited story quest that you won't be able to do once the event is done. And that kind of sucks, just because it seems pretty neat, dude. As you end up completing the event, this sword is going to get more and more powerful while you're in this area. And then I don't think that the abilities of this sword are permanent. I think it's actually tied to the event. It could be more than that, but I'm not exactly sure. Anyways, yeah, just completing tons and tons of parts of the quest line and completing them nice and quick. So as I mentioned, there is new story quests. There's going to end up being new world quests, which I found a few of them. There's also going to be some new commissions, which I'm guessing means that we're going to be able to get some commissions in Dragonspine, which would be dope. I would love that because I love this area. There is also, now we're moving on to the other content, which there is a huge list of stuff here. So I'll kind of just pick and choose the things that I think are important enough to mention, and then otherwise, again, you guys and gals can end up checking the link in the description and reading through it at your leisure. So obviously there's going to be a whole bunch of new monsters, which I'm really excited about because they're really, really fun. There's like a Rune Agate, which is like a giant rune guardian. There's also a weird flying cube guardian as well. So there's actually like a complete new enemy type instead of just a different version of current enemies. So that's pretty darn cool. But then there's going to be like ice versions of Hilichurls and ice versions of like the Sisson Mage and stuff like that. So there's a lot of different enemies that you can end up finding. There's new animals. There's a snow boar, a cryo crystal fly, snow fox. You get different meat off of them. The snow boars actually give you iced meat or something, which is different than the meat that the other creatures end up giving you, so that's kind of interesting. There's a couple new recipes, and it does mention where you can get them. Wanmin Restaurant, Quincy Village. I know it's like Quincy Village or something, but I call it Quincy Town because it sounds stupid. And then there's going to be new resources and materials. So Star Silver is going to be a new ore you can find on the mountain. It can be forged into fine enhancement ore. Okay, cool. The chilled meat, that's what I mentioned, can be processed into raw meat. Why? Weird, but okay. There's a whole bunch of new achievements. There's a whole bunch of new name cards tied to those achievements. Spiral Abyss has a bunch of changes as well that they mention on some of the different floors. They've changed a lot of systems to the game as well, so there is actually private chats with friends. So at any point, you can just open up the chat log with any of your friends and you can start messaging them, and you'll actually see their messages like offline as well. So that's pretty darn interesting. Like they literally have like an in-game chat system now, which probably works like crazy well on the phone, but on PC and console, obviously there's other options for us to end up messaging people, but still it's pretty cool. You can also adds function to edit friends' names. Interesting. So you could give them nicknames, I guess. That's kind of neat. There's a new gadget. So when equipped, the camera with a K, when equipped, travelers can take snapshots obtained via the world quest snapshots. Oh damn, dude, I didn't know that they actually had a new camera system added to the game. That's dope. I'm gonna have to go out of my way to do that. They also ended up adjusting this, so taking photos now you can literally just adjust the angle, the pitch and yaw and all of that stuff right here instead of having to go into a separate menu for it. There is also different poses, and you can end up giving your character different expressions.
Exorcism,
so that's kind of cool. But I just want to see that camera because that sounds dope. So as I mentioned earlier, you can now repeat a domain challenge from within the domain instead of having to leave and come back all the time. There's also new character ascension rewards. So at level, when you ascend a character at level 20, 50, and 70, you will actually end up getting free fates. So at any point you might see a whole bunch of exclamation marks on all your characters. You can see down right at the down middle of the screen underneath his foot, there's ascension material preview. So at any point you can always see what a character is going to end up costing to ascend, which is great because otherwise you had to use external websites. You had to use like the wiki and stuff like that to see what it would end up costing for a character to end up ascending. So now that you can see it in game, it means that you can prepare for it, but you can see that you will end up getting fates, which is for wishes, by just getting characters again to ascend from 20, 50, and 70. So It's pretty brutal that you gotta get them to 70, but at the least you could ascend a whole bunch of your characters to 20, and then you could end up getting a bunch of free wishes, and maybe you'll end up getting something lucky out of it. I actually heard somebody today that ended up getting Diluc out of it, so that was pretty cool to hear. When you're talking to NPCs and stuff like that, you can actually put auto play, which will automatically play their dialogue one after another instead of you having to interact, which, I mean, whatever. Those of you using a controller, I'm playing on PC, but I use a controller just because it makes more sense. Thankfully, we can finally go into our options and we can turn off controller vibration. That's really nice. I did find a solution to that on PC. You just would launch the game, get into the game, then you turn on your controller and then turn it on in the game, and then vibration would just be off for some reason. But I found if I had my controller on while I launched into the game, vibration would be on. But most of all, I think this is going to affect those of you on PS4 and PS5, right? So that's going to be really cool. I mean, I guess you could just change the setting on the console itself, so it's not that big a deal. But either way, I just appreciate that they finally added that. Oh, the battle pass also now, we do have another battle pass. It actually just cycled over into a new one, and they finally have defeating the golden house. So that is the child boss fight is now added to the weekly rotation of the battle pass, which, I mean, even if you ended up beating the boss, it doesn't matter because you could just go and fight them again. The only one that really matters is Boreas, the weekly wolf boss, because if you kill him in your world, he's just dead forever. So try to join a friend's world, kill it again, and then even if you don't end up getting the rewards, you'll still end up getting the XP for the battle pass. So that's, you know, that's kind of nice. There's also going to be a whole bunch of XP tied to the event as well, so... And this 50 wishes should end up being pretty easy just by leveling up your character as even as free to play, right? Because I haven't spent money since Dongli, and I don't think I'm going to for a while. So they have a bunch of things that they talk about with optimization to the store, but I do want to mention, without going into too much detail of all that, that they do actually have these new bundles right now, which are going to end up giving you tons of Mora, but they also give you a whole bunch of books of your choosing. So these are talent books, so that's pretty crazy. These are actually really desirable right now because they're on sale, because otherwise they're going to end up being a little bit more expensive. But either way, I mean, the fact that they give you so much Mora out of them, you can buy this one 5 times, this one 3 times. I don't know when they reset. Maybe it's just a permanent gone forever, or it's going to reset every week or every month. I don't know. It just says purchase up to 3, whereas these are a limited amount per week. So that's interesting to say the least. They say there's optimizations for co-op mode as well, so the host can disband the co-op team. Thank God you don't have to kick everyone one at a time. And in co-op domains, guests and the host can both quit the co-op anytime without affecting other travelers that are in the game. That's nice. So then there is a huge list of a bunch of descriptions that they ended up changing for a lot of character abilities and stuff like that. Most of all, it is just the description themselves kind of refining what each of the characters ends up doing with their abilities. So you can read through it if you got any characters on this list that were affected by it, but and we're not going to go through that because it just keeps on going, dude. Then there's a couple bug fixes relating to quests, monsters, co-op, and stuff like that. And tons more fixes to characters, weapons, other fixes. Archive got fixed as well with a lot of stuff. Yeah, and that just kind of goes on and on and on. So I guess we can call it here for today because I think that pretty much covers it. There might be a little bit more in there. There's definitely a lot more to read if you want. But these changes, most of all the quality of life changes, are really going to go a long way. And I absolutely love this new area, but I don't know how long it's going to last just because of the ice mechanic. And the area itself is fairly short. But I mean, I'll take it just because it is more that you can end up grinding in this absolutely amazing game. It's also got some of the best music in the game. I love the combat song. It's probably one of my favorite, and it's stupendous. You got to explore it for yourselves. So thanks so much for watching, gamers. Really appreciate it. I'll have an Eric Genshin stream that I already recorded today going up tomorrow because today I wanted to put the patch notes up for you guys, but you can expect me to be playing Genshin very regularly on the channel again until this update kind of dies down, but I don't know. I mean, I'm just really enjoying it. Anyways, smash like, sub for more. Buy the merch you want to support the channel. New shirt. New-ish. And have yourselves a fantastic day. Sign on and stay up, gamers.